Bernie Sanders' campaign is about to implode. Oh my goodness. Things are about to get real, guys. Bernie Sanders' campaign is about to explode in a bad way. The one thing I want to talk about today is that we need to counter this. This whole thing that is coming out with Bernie Sanders' campaign with Project Veritas is absolutely anti-humanity. This is a perfect time for a candidate like Andrew Yang to call it out. Let's talk about what's going on today. If you guys have not heard of Project Veritas Action, I'm going to link them down below so you can check them out. So far, they have come out with 4 videos of Bernie's campaign staff saying horrendous things, and this most recent one is probably one of the worst yet. But the thing is, this keeps stacking and stacking and stacking, and I see a trend here. I think this is something that's been secretly going on in Bernie Sanders' campaign for a while. This has been something that has been building for quite some time. In other videos, I've actually talked about how a big swath of people, big group of people were disenfranchised, and it was actually talked about in 2016 after the Bernie defeat, after a bunch of talk of election rigging in the primaries, after California basically still to this day is questioned whether Bernie or Hillary actually won California due to a lot of things that actually happened behind the scenes. It's insane. These people never forgot. I'm gonna call it out right now. A lot of people in Bernie's campaign never forgot what happened. And so far, nothing has come out of this, but is that really true? I really have this feeling that there's this underground movement happening in Bernie's campaign, and that Bernie's staying quiet about it. This is the thing that bothers me most. Where is this rooted in? Where are these radicalists coming from? Are these groups of people really fringe people within his campaign that are just radicalized and they have these radical thoughts and point of views? It's horrendous. If you haven't seen it, like I said, I'm going to link it all down below. And I can't help but think that there's a big problem here. It doesn't matter who's coming out with this information. The only thing that matters is that, is it true or not? If you really think Bernie Sanders is honest and trustworthy and you should be loyal to him and he should be your second, think about what's going on here. If you haven't seen this information, it is really damning against Bernie's campaign. It is anti-humanity, as I said. This is so bad that I think someone in the mainstream needs to say something. Specifically, I would say that if Andrew Yang calls this out, he actually has a reason to. It wouldn't actually, I don't think this is an attack against Bernie. If he calls out the corruption that I don't think it's an attack. I don't actually view it as an attack against Bernie's campaign if Andrew Yang were to say, hey, look, these people are saying radicalized things. They have these radicalized views and ideas, and they're practically talking about killing people and putting them in gulags and other crazy things like that. And I am against that as Andrew Yang. You know, he could make a statement saying that he's against these kind of things that are coming out in Bernie's campaign, and he hopes to see Bernie Sanders also denounce these kind of things because they're anti-American and they're anti-human. As a humanity first campaign, I think Andrew Yang should maybe make this move. Like, it's disgusting. And not only that, like, there's a trend going on with the Bernie Sanders campaign. They have it's like someone inside is just pushing this idea to really just ignore everything else and just push this, like, this closed in nonsense. It's like cultism. They've literally formed a cult, and really, if you're not in it, they don't want to hear from you. Like, multiple times, I've just tried to have normal discussions with people on Twitter that are Bernie Sanders supporters, and I am genuinely just trying to be reasonable with them, and they ban me instantly from their accounts. And I doubt this is just one-off with me. I'm sure a lot of other Yang supporters are feeling the same way about this. And we're, you know, obviously other channels are starting to call it out, and it's becoming more and more of a problem that we're noticing. They're banning us from the Reddits, they're banning us from the Twitter accounts, feeds. Bernie Sanders, on all of his emails that I've seen, he doesn't ask any questions to the supporters. You know how sometimes Andrew Yang might ask you what you're thinking, or he might let you actually write to him in form of like an email he sends. Bernie Sanders' campaign has not done that at all. They're not really interested in your ideas and your thoughts and your opinions. Not at all. Bernie Sanders refers to his campaign as the revolution. And he's an old person that I think that he really means what he says. He really wants it to be a revolution, and he's playing this game where if he can truly gain the wave that he wants, he might end up doing radical, crazy things, and people might use him as an excuse to do really more horrendous things. If Bernie Sanders is elected, this is a green flag for a lot of people that we are going full form socialism. There's nothing that is going to stop them. Like, seriously, they're going to rally very hard. And Bernie Sanders, as we've all seen, is the type of guy that won't push back. He's the type of guy that if he feels pressured even a little bit, he's going to give in to the pressure. This is not good. I am questioning how big the cult is. There was a petition in 2016 during the time of voting, and it grew to large numbers. I'll link the petition down below. It's already closed now. I remember following it all back then. The person that was leading it was Deborah, I don't remember her last name, but she was known as the Same Progressive. She was leading this movement, and honestly, she was rightfully upset by Bernie, as were her followers, as were a lot of people. And she took this huge petition to Bernie, and he ignored all their fans. And I just feel like this really fueled a lot of hate in people, a lot of bitterness. And they're directing their bitterness and hate towards the establishment, towards democracy, basically, towards capitalism. And I feel like if they get this boost that they're looking for, that we have a lot of hard times to come. That a lot of I'm starting to get worried about Bernie's campaign. Something needs to be said. He needs to be called out. Andrew Yang. We all know that Andrew Yang's our only hope. I've posted videos criticizing him. I've posted videos with all my criticisms and all my thoughts, and I truly believe it. I'm honestly worried about Bernie's campaign. I'm more worried about Bernie Sanders and the fact that he's staying silent about it, that no one else is saying anything about it, so that he doesn't even have to question or come out or say anything about it. Something needs to be said. Andrew Yang needs to call out these 4 instances that have continuously come up in his campaign over and over again. It's time that someone calls it out. It's not an attack anymore. If it was just 1 or 2 incidents, that would seem like, oh, you're just talking about fringe incidents. But already, even the rhetoric that's been talked about within these most recent discoveries show that this is kind of been echoed throughout the campaign. This is kind of an underground message that they've been sending to each other. And a lot of them are listening, because a lot of them are still upset from their previous defeat to Donald Trump, and they think that there's nothing to get in the way of them winning this time. And when they get in the way, they want to make the biggest change they can and take everything over. This is where we need to start focusing. In my opinion, right now, this is what Andrew Yang needs to do. I think he's the person to do it. There are a couple of others, like, of course, Tulsi Gabbard could also call this out, but right now she's kind of on, if she's a legit person, if she's not really part of the corruption herself, then she has a bias towards Bernie Sanders, and this would possibly cause her to stay quiet on the subject. So we're literally at this point, I don't see anyone else calling it out. The mainstream isn't calling it out. None of the Bernie supporters are calling it out. They're just trying to sweep it under the rug. But what they're saying is literally equal to murder. It's a call to action for something terrible, and we are completely against that as a Yang gang. So as Humanity First, what should we do? We should call out this type of corruption wherever we see it, wherever it comes from. Don't be afraid to hurt the Bernie bros because you said something mean to them. It's the truth. Let's stick with the truth. How about that? Guys, thank you for watching. Let's keep it humanity first. Really, let's keep this whole campaign humanity first. Let's keep this whole movement humanity first. Most importantly, if we see something that's against humanity, then that's where we need to focus our energy on. We need to put out this flame that a lot of people have in their hearts, this burning, this hurt that a lot of people are feeling. We need to put out the flame. We need to bring enough people back to our side. And right now, we need to really, truly expose the corruption that Bernie Sanders' campaign is experiencing, and we need to see if he's willing to come out and denounce it as well. All right, guys, I'm ending the video here. Thank you for watching. Tell me what you think below. Do you guys agree? Am I making too big of a deal out of this? Is this really not Andrew Yang's place to say anything? Am I wrong about this being against humanity somehow? Really, go over the information yourself. You know, I'm just talking and giving my thoughts about it here. All right, until next time, guys, humanity first.